week in and week out. I kind of compare it to like doing drugs. You know you shouldn't do it, but you can't stop.
730 Gold KLOE.
Guys everywhere.
Discussing it all from the preps.
Brumbaugh fakes the three, fires it from the corner. Yes!
To the pros.
They set up the screen. McLaughlin has it with Miners out in front. McLaughlin's got a first down inside the 10, inside the 5. Touchdown, Denver.
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank, as well as the Insurance Agency, Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Yeah, he has some cheapies. That's not a cheapie. Deep left center field, and Salvi has driven in both Royals runs tonight. Home run number 26.
Debo, jet sweep. He is in for the touchdown. They're going to get a free play. Rogers is the master at it, and a touchdown by Lazard. Second and goal. Mason bobbling it, but a touchdown. Play action from Rogers again. Pressure off the edge, and the pass is broken up and now picked off.
Welcome inside the Morning Blitz, everybody. Happy Tuesday morning to you and yours. Glad you're joining us, no matter which way you're doing so. On the radio, of course, on Goodland's Rocket 1025, simulcasting on AM 730 Gold, KLOE. We are also, of course, online, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream here on this Tuesday, September the 10th, expected to be 92. Right now, sitting at 62 with sunshine out there to kick off this Tuesday morning. Week one of the NFL football season is in the books, and we will talk about that coming up in this show. We'll talk about kind of some week one thoughts of the first week of the NFL football season. We will also be talking about some news out of Lawrence yesterday that I found to be quite interesting as well, and a few other things. Busy day in volleyball today. Especially at the high school level, got a lot of area teams playing some more matches here tonight. So we'll get to all that coming up here in today's program. And today we'll also be joined a first-time guest here on the Morning Blitz. He's the new co-host with Ari Temkin on TuneIn, which is Big 12 Today on TuneIn. It's the only radio show that talks about just the Big 12 Conference. And James Westling will join us. He, like I said, a co-host with Ari Temkin, talking all about Big 12 football coming up here at the bottom of the hour. So look forward to visiting with James about Big 12 football. So lots to get into in today's Tuesday program. Want to kick it off, though, with a little local results from yesterday. Another tournament and another win for the Goodland Cowgirls, this time at their own home course at Sugar Hills, as the Cowgirls beat Colby by 27 strokes. They shoot a 386 combined score, Colby a 413, and Goodland off to a 2-0 start in this girls' golf season. Once again, good showings from their top two golfers, Allie Cure and Tori Jones. Jones leading the way this time, one shot better than her teammate Allie Cure, an 86 for Tori Jones to finish in second. Allie Cure coming in third, shooting at 87. And then Amelia Bowles of Rollins County finishing in first place for in the individual side. She shot an 82, and not a surprise. She's one of the best, if not the best golfer individually, possibly in this region. She's going to have a fantastic season, will Amelia Bowles. But good showing from Goodland, who had three girls inside the top 10. Tori Jones, Allie Cure finishing 2 and 3, and then Natalie Cure with a 103, finishing tied for 9th, and then lost the tiebreaker to finish in 10th place. And Colby was, pretty good too. I mean, Logan Nolan shot a 95 and Natalie Wadersky shot a 97 to finish 4th and 5th. And they had Braylon Stupka finishing 11th with a 106. It was just a few, I'll call it leaky shots, is the way I would kind of put that kind of put Colby in the second place spot. Like, you're finishing 1 or 2 strokes back of the other top two golfers in Goodland. And that just kind of continued down. Colby had, like I said, 3 girls in the top 11, and they would have all their girls, for the most part, finish inside the top 25. But Goodland had just a few better showings from, Sadie Cedarstrom and as well as Sheridan Townsend to help push the Cowgirls over top. And so it's been a great start to this year for Goodland Cowgirl golf already, with 2 tournaments, Hugoton and now Goodland, and 2 victories. And we'll see if this trend continues. It has in the past. We've seen it in the past before. We've seen, Colby in the previous years has come and they've had really good success. Like last year, led by Anna Starbuck, they get on a roll because they've got a good team and they just kind of win all the tournaments out here. And we'll see if that trend continues. So far, Goodland 2 for 2 here in the 2024 golf season. That was the only local event that happened yesterday. There was Monday Night Football last night where I thought we'd get a better game. That wasn't the case as the 49ers blow out the New York Jets 32-19. The Niners didn't even have Christian McCaffrey. He was injured and did not play. They started a young man by the name of Jordan Mason, who ran for 147 yards and a touchdown. It just doesn't matter who's playing running back. My football coach used to say, look, running back's an important position, but as long as you can hold on to the ball and run, that's all that matters. The offensive line means more. The quarterback means more. That kind of stuff just means more. And in San Francisco, just kind of put that to the test and to the truth, because they have a good offensive line. They got a great push. Jordan Mason ran for over 100 and a score, and they win easily 39-19. Their defense is very good as well. They forced a couple of turnovers, which helped lead things. I mean, San Francisco probably could even had more points. I think Jake Moody had to have 6 field goals last night, 6 field goals to lead the way for them offensively for the most part, because they struggled to punch it in. But overall, it was a dominant win, and I really take more on. I was expecting more out of the Jets, I guess. I saw some flashes of that good defense that I think we're all expecting to see throughout the year. And Aaron Rodgers playing his first game and his first full game in almost 2 years, a year and a half at least, with that Achilles injury he had last year. He looked all right. Not amazing. I feel like they were really trying to get the ground game going with Breece Hall. It did not work. They were really trying to, make it easy on Aaron with some short passes, and his wide receivers did not make the plays that they needed to, especially early. There was definitely some flashes where you're like, that's Aaron Rodgers. That play where he threw to Ellen Lazard, that was an Aaron Rodgers play. That absolutely was an Aaron Rodgers type play for sure. That was like free play, false start, down the field. It's like, and of course it was Alan Lazard, a former teammate of his with the Packers. That means we just go straight to the end zone. He's going to throw it up. We'll try and make a play, and they got a touchdown out of it. That was typical Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, I don't know. If I'm a Jets fan, probably this morning, I'm not feeling very good about what I saw. Not that I was expecting maybe to win against the NFC champs, who've won the NFC championship, 4 out of the last 5 years. I mean, they've been impressive, or played in the NFC championship at least 4 of the last 5 years. I guess I just expected a little bit more, and I did not see that from the Jets. But 32-19, the final score last night, led by Jordan Mason for San Francisco as they get to 1-0. The Jets drop to 0-1. And that kind of puts a bow, of course, on week number 1 of the NFL. And honestly, did anybody else, and you, of course, you can hit us up on the text line number 785-899-2222 if you want to chime in with your thoughts and comments on week 1 of the NFL, no matter if it's your team or another team or just overall thoughts. I was watching week 1 of the NFL and kind of going back and then rewatching some highlights and stuff of the games. Was anybody else that stood back and they were talking about this on the pregame before? I think it was the pregame before Monday Night Football. Scott Van Pelt was talking about it, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, was anybody else sitting there thinking that, boy, it didn't look very good? Week 1 was not very pretty. It was just not very pretty whatsoever. At least I didn't think so. I mean, Game 1, the Ravens and the Chiefs was good. That looked like a good NFL game. I didn't get to watch Eagles-Packers. From everything I kind of saw, it looked like it was good. It looked like your typical game. But boy, there was not a lot of great games. And in particular, at the most important spot in sports. That would be, of course, the quarterback. It did not look great. It did not. I can roll down a lot of these games here, and I can kind of tell you where I kind of stood on this. Once again, we'll start with last night. Aaron Rodgers, 13 of 21 for 167 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. 167 yards passing? This is not 1980s. We're in 2024, where passing is the thing to do. But that was not great. Team stats for the Jets, it's 266 total yards. I mean, usually if you're not getting to over 300 total yards of offense, it's probably not a good day at the office. We can roll through these. Look at the Steelers-Falcons game. Justin Fields, 156 yards. Now, he was 17 of 23, which was good. Kirk Cousins, who's making millions upon millions of dollars, 16 of 26 for a touchdown and 2 picks. That was not very good either. That was horrible. You can scroll down here. In the Bears and Titans, Will Levis, 127 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Caleb Williams, 14 of 29, 93 yards passing. No touchdowns, no picks. That was not pretty. Let's go to the Bengals and the Patriots. Why don't we? Just for fun. Let's take a look at this game. Jacoby Brissett, 121 yards passing. Joe Burrow, 164 yards passing. Now, New England covered that up with 170 yards rushing, and that's all right. That's okay. I can forgive that if you're going to believe in that so much. The Texans and the Colts, that looked like an NFL football game. That looked like one. 234 for C.J. Stroud, 2 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson, 212, 2 touchdowns. But you can just kind of roll through a lot of these games and find just horrific, and I do want to say horrific, quarterback play. That's the thing I think that stands out to me the most. Daniel Jones, 22 of 42 for 186 and 2 picks. Not good. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, though, was really good, and I'm happy for Sam. 208, 19 of 24, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Dak Prescott was pretty good. 179, though, for a touchdown, 169 on 24 or 45 for Deshaun Watson. A lot of incompletions. This is my point. A lot of incompletions. A lot of incompletions for a minimal amount of yards, and in most cases, more touchdowns and picks. Yes, Jared, I understand Bo Nix had a mediocre day himself. We talked about those numbers yesterday. What was his final total again for Bo Nix? Was like 26 of 42 with 2 picks for 138. Another example there. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of grace to some rookies because they're young, and I get that. It's their first NFL start. I'm going to give some grace. It's your first NFL start. I will give some grace to you. But it's the ones like Kirk Cousins, for example. Daniel Jones, for example. Guys that this is not their first rodeo. Joe Burrow. These type of guys have played in NFL games a lot throughout their career. This is not their first time doing this. Deshaun Watson, not their first time. You can't tell me that the NFL defenses are that amazing. You can't tell me that. They're not that amazing. They're good, but they're not that good. But I just was rolling through a lot of these games, and I was just thinking, what in the world? Why do we not have any better numbers from the quarterbacks when the game has become a quarterback-driven game? Not even a league anymore. It's really much a game. If you don't have a good quarterback at any level of football, you're probably not going to be that great. Now, there can be some exceptions in the college game. There can be exceptions at the high school game. If you've got, big kids up front and a really fast kid and you can, toss the ball to that kid or let him run, you don't need that at the high school level. So I get that. But in the game of football, it has become a quarterback-driven league. If you don't have one, you probably aren't going to have a good season. And boy, it just seemed like in week 1 of the NFL, that was the biggest thing that stood out to me, was that quarterbacks looked poor. Quarterback play was poor. It did not look good. Now, once again, there were a few outliers that were good, and that's fine, but there was some poor quarterback play. Like I said, interceptions, lack of yards, and not very good when it comes to completion percentage. Simple as that. That's what That's kind of, I don't know, it did not look good. And the biggest reason why, I have no doubt it will improve here over the coming weeks, but the biggest reason why is coaches don't know how to handle the preseason. Coaches don't know how to handle the preseason. Because there are 3 games, some coaches believe that the starters do not need to play in any of those preseason games very much and shake off some rust and get some feeling and continuity with their teammates. They just said, well, let's roll out there week 1 and let's see what happens. It's not good for the game. Like we heard Nick Athen yesterday. If you missed any of the show, of course, the podcast is always available. But listen to Nick Athen. He talked about, Andy Reid knows how to do this. We get out there, we work. We're going to have the starters play some in the first game. We're going to have them play more in the second game. And then maybe the third game, if I like where we're at, we're not going to play them. Get out in the preseason and play some dang on football. Everybody needs to do it because otherwise the product looks like what it did week 1. It was not good, especially the quarterbacks. There's timing involved, continuity, all that stuff. It needs to happen. Jared on our FNB Bank text line, 785-899-2222. Need more preseason games to get ready. We had 4, a couple of years ago, Jared. We're not going backwards. We're not going to go backwards. They're going to stick with 3, but all you have to do is get out and play. They give you 3, and you don't have to play the full game. Play a quarter, play a half. Get 3, 4 drives max, and then call it. Then get your backups in there and see who makes the team. But the lack of star players not playing in the preseason is hurting the product early on in the season. Now, once again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. I get that. And I'm sure the NFL will be fine. But that's not good. It's not a good look. This early start to this beginning start to the season here in week 1, it was not pretty. Not pretty whatsoever. Bad quarterback play, bad numbers, bad looking games. Preseason they need to get more people in the preseason. And, coaches are, like I said, so afraid anymore. And this is at all levels of football. They're so afraid to get anybody hurt that they're not willing to work on what needs to get worked on, whether that's timing at the quarterback spot, whether it's tackling at the high school level. It doesn't matter. People are so afraid about getting hurt that you're not practicing the things that make football important, blocking and tackling. If you don't practice blocking and you don't practice tackling, you're not going to be good at those things. So you have to get out and you have to practice them. No matter if you believe that even if you think, oh gosh, we could possibly get hurt. That's part of the game. It's a game of attrition. You got to build that depth. That's what just drives me nuts about the game today is that, we're not practicing enough of the fundamentals. It's all about 7-on-7 and who can throw the ball. When really it comes down to, you can do that, but can you block and can you tackle? Those are the 2 foundational pieces of the game of football. And if you can't block and you can't tackle, you're not going to have success anywhere else. Luckily, I feel like in the NFL, you're professionals. You should be able to block. You should be able to tackle. But at the lower levels, that's the kind of stuff you have to work on, week in, and week out. And that's what's good. Just an overview of the game of football. And it's happened at the college level. It really does. Watch college games. You know the teams that tackle well, and you know the teams that don't. You see it. You see it with your eyes. Like, this team doesn't tackle. This team doesn't tackle in practice. You know it. They're missing tackles. They're diving at ankles. They're doing all that kind of stuff. They don't tackle in practice. If you're going to get good at something, you have to work at it. So whether it's tackling or blocking at the lower levels, or it is, working on your quarterback play at the upper levels in the NFL, getting out there and practicing with your teammates in live game reps with fans and everything, that's how you get better, and that's how you become a better football player, better football team. And once again, going back to my original point, the NFL, I thought week 1 had some great moments, kicked off great. Sunday Night Football was great. There were a few games sprinkled on Sunday that were good, but there was a majority of it that was not good, and it was particularly under center where it was not good because they did not practice in the preseason like they needed to, did not play preseason games like they needed to, and that rust showed with lackluster numbers and lackluster offensive performances. Okay, let's get to a timeout here on the Morning Blitz. When we come back, James Wetzeling is going to join the program. He is the co-host of Big 12 Today on TuneIn Radio. We'll talk about last week's performances of the Big 12, what he's looking forward to here coming up in week 3 of the college football season. That's all next here on the Morning Blitz here on a Tuesday.
The Chevy Summer Drive event is going on right now at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Right now, you can get a Chevy Silverado 1500 pickup with up to $5,750 of total rebates when you trade in an eligible vehicle, or get 1.9% financing on select 2023 and 24 model Chevrolets, plus no payments for 90 days. As always, go to hurlchev.com to schedule any service or check out what's on the lot, or just stop on by in South Goodland.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Tom Saluda with the Anderson Trade Group with your overnight market report on September the 10th. December corn was down 1 at 12.5 1/2. March corn was down 1 at 4.24 1/2, and May corn was down 1 at 4.35. November soybeans was down 12 at 10.05 1/2. January soybeans down 12 at 10.23. March down 12 at 10.37. Kansas City hard red winter wheat December was up 3 at 5.79. March was up 3 at 5.92, and May was up 3 at 5.99. Dow Jones is currently up 48 points at 40,930. S&P up 17 points at 5,495. NASDAQ is up 62 points at 18,752. Gold is up 10 points at 25.42. Silver slightly up at 28.88. And crude oil is slightly down at 68.30 a barrel. If you're out in the Colorado area and have any grain to market or risk management questions, please call John Hanke or John Stiles at 970-744-4484, or you can call the Overland Park office, myself, Tom Saluda, Jared Ball, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000. Thank you.
Goodland, Kansas, 1976 is where it all began for Hayden Outdoors Real Estate. Over 200 brokers and agents from coast to coast. We're still going strong. If you want to sell your farm, ranch, hunting property, needing a land valuation, or in the position to purchase your next property, give our team a call at 866-741-8323. That's 866-741-8323. Or visit HaydenOutdoors.com. Hayden Outdoors is the brand that sells the land.
When challenging conditions arise, we don't back down. We up our game. Outpacing the competition with innovations fueled by Bayer's R&D, keeping you equipped with an expanded portfolio, elite genetics, and additional local test plots. Channel leads the field, so you can rise above. See how you can save at channel.com/finance24. Read and follow pesticide label directions, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices.
Out here, we raise stronger people, stronger crops, and we proudly raise our flag to that. Let the weather, pests, and pressures try to beat us down. We only keep growing up. With the next-gen genetics, the pure acre-for-acre know-how of these soils, and a deep pride of our roots, we are born to raise. At Hogemeyer. Learn more at therightseed.com.
Even though your attention has turned back to school with events and activities, you just can't forget everything going on at home. That's where your local Hoover Lumber Ace hardware stores in Goodland and Colby come in. Keep the lawn in check with mowers, blowers, and trimmers from Craftsman, Toro, and Ego. They are still your local Benjamin Moore paint retailer, and they still have that amazing selection of outdoor grills and griddles from Traeger, Weber, and Blackstone. Plus, their helpful and knowledgeable staffs are some of the best in the Northwest. It's all at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby. Open every day but Sunday.
From the locker room to your morning commute, it's all sports all the time.
It's all they talk about.
This is the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Well, start getting ready and marking your calendars and being prepared for the Flatlander Fall Festival coming up September 27th to the 29th here in downtown Goodland. Going to have great night events on Friday night, kicking off at 5. Got live music, vendors, delicious food trucks, tons of activities all weekend long. Plus, of course, the car and bike shows. Want to make sure that you visit flatlandersfallfestival.org or go to follow the Sherman County Community Development community page, which is on Facebook. And make sure you follow that as well. But the 38th annual Flatlanders Fall Festival coming up here the end of September, the 27th through the 29th in downtown Goodland. All right, we're just past the bottom of the hour here on a Tuesday morning, and we are pleased to welcome into the program our first-time guest. You'll see him on ESPN sometimes. In fact, you tune in most either on ESPN Plus or on ESPN2 or U. I'm sure someday we'll see him on regular ESPN. He's a very talented broadcaster. James Wessling, who last week was down covering Central Florida and Sam Houston State. He was also, of course, he's now also the co-host of Big 12 Today. It is a radio show on TuneIn, talking all Big 12 sports every single day. We're pleased to welcome into the show James Wessling. James, thank you so much for joining us here this morning.
Thanks for having me, Ross. I'm excited to talk some Big 12.
No, absolutely, man. I tell you what, how you were in Florida last week at Central Florida and Sam Houston State? How was that?
That was my first trip to Orlando. First time I had been on the UCF campus, and I was just completely blown away. Everybody down there, their fans are so excited to be part of this conference. They were incredibly friendly and warm and welcoming. I was just really impressed, smaller stadium, seats less than 50,000, but they fill it up on a regular basis and it gets loud. They call it the bounce house because the entire stadium shakes and literally bounces. You can feel it up in the press box and in the booth. It was a really unique and underrated environment.
Hope you didn't have that facial expression like Kirk Herbstreit did a few years ago when there was an earthquake at Oklahoma State. Hopefully not one of those,
I was ready for it. I was not ready to be in an open air broadcast booth with no windows and 95-degree heat and unbearable humidity. So that was a new experience for me. But outside of that, no complaints here, man. It was cool.
Well, I want to start off with a couple of games close to home. First and foremost, talking Kansas State. They were down at Tulane. They pick up a 34-27 victory. And I know that bowl game, to me, I kind of thought K-State, it would be close for maybe a half, and K-State would pull away at the end. I tell you, K-State needed a scoop and score, really, to win that football game. In your opinion, James, what stood out about Kansas State in that close win over Tulane?
I think the thing that stood out is just how they closed the game. That was low-key a really nice win for the conference. Tulane had been written off because they lost their quarterback, who was the reigning American Player of the Year. Their coach left, Willie Fritz, for Houston, but they still had 19 starters back. They had a really impressive redshirt freshman at quarterback that torched K-State, frankly, in the first half. So I felt like Tulane was better than maybe we thought they would be. So just the fact that K-State, they overcame some adversity. They got off to a slow start. They made big plays when it mattered most. And they put together scoring drives when they had to have points. I thought the rushing attack was really strong, especially in the second half. And K-State has two of the most underrated running backs in the country, at DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards. Dylan Edwards came in that fourth quarter. He had not had a carry in that game until the fourth quarter, and he averaged over 13 yards per rush in that frame. I thought he was huge. And I think the passing game is getting better. It's going to take some time. Avery Johnson's a first-year starter, even though he started some games last year. I think that the preseason expectations for a 19-year-old kid who's a true sophomore were maybe a little bit unfair on him. So I felt like, all in all, it was just a really nice win. And I think it says a lot about Tulane being better than we had anticipated going in.
Is there any concern for you on the K-State defense giving up close to 500 yards? I mean, like you said, Tulane is probably better than we thought, but is there any concern about that defense after a performance like that?
Yeah, maybe a little. I think that, K-State under Chris Kleiman has been such a bend but don't break defense. They're not great 20-20. They really clamped down in the red zone, and they gave up a lot of yards. But I think the other positive from that game defensively is K-State was very disruptive. They had 11 tackles for loss. they took some risks in the secondary that was maybe uncharacteristic of them. And I think they'll get that figured out. They have talent on that side of the ball. Like I said, they were getting to the quarterback. The secondary just didn't play very well. And I think they'll get better back there on the back end. So it's not overly concerning. I mean, the Big 12 defenses against the better teams on the non-conference have given up a lot of yards, and K-State was no different. But I don't think that there's any serious concern on that side of the football. I think they'll be okay.
We're visiting with James Wessling. He does play-by-play for ESPN, also co-host of Big 12 Today on TuneIn, talking Big 12 football as we are through 2 weeks of the season. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most surprising, how surprised were you guys that Kansas fell on the road at Illinois?
Oh, probably a 7. That was Illinois' first sellout crowd in 6 years. 7, actually, since 2017. So we knew that Illinois would be really up for that game. I just felt like KU had a much more talented roster, and I still think they do. If KU doesn't abandon the ground game in the fourth quarter, I think they win that one. I was shocked that they started throwing the football in the fourth quarter when, they were having a lot of success on the ground. They were averaging 6 yards per carry. They had a 17-13 lead going into the fourth quarter. We can't figure out why they abandoned the ground game. And that's a learning experience for a new offensive coordinator. Remember, they're old offensive coordinators at Penn State now. So I think that it wasn't a total shock because we knew that Illinois would be really up for the game. It was a close spread. I think it got down to 4 or 5 right before kickoff. But still a disappointing loss for Kansas. No doubt about that.
How do you think they rebound the rest of the season after a loss? Because I feel like the expectations are very high in Lawrence, and they should be considering the senior-laden group that they have.
Well, I think it's going to come down to, can they get Jalen Daniels back on the right track? And I think Jalen Daniels is just in his head right now. He didn't play much last year. Everybody talking about his injury stuff. But also, there's been so much talk about Kansas, if Jalen Daniels stays healthy, can compete for a Big 12 championship game. And if he doesn't, there may be a bowl team. That's a lot of pressure to put on one player who, again, sat out most of last season. And he doesn't look like the same quarterback. And it's not his athletic ability. We've seen him make really impressive throws on the young season, so we know he's capable of it. I just think he's really in his head. And I think once they get him settled down, that we'll see the Jalen Daniels of old. So Lance Leipold said it best. He said it's a 12-game regular season. This is week 2. There's a ton of football left. They haven't even played a Big 12 game. So I'm not hitting the panic button by any means when it comes to KU. I still think they can compete at a high level in this conference. But they're certainly not one of the best 3, 4, maybe even 5 teams right now in this league.
James Wessling joining us on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline here on the Morning Blitz. Colorado losing to Nebraska 28-10. Shedeur Sanders getting sacked 6 more times. How much concern should there be that he's going to be able to make it through a whole season of Big 12 football?
Probably a lot, because they were exposed against Nebraska on Saturday. Colorado, they are what we thought they are, And I think that was a disappointing loss for the conference because all of that preseason hype. I don't understand how a team can have maybe the best player in college football in Travis Hunter. He did his thing with 10 catches, had over 100 yards. You've got Shedeur Sanders, who's right now, according to CBS, the number 3 pick in the upcoming NFL draft overall. They have him as the top quarterback on the board. So you've got 2 elite playmakers at the skill positions, but you can't go out and find offensive and defensive linemen. They just continue to get dominated in the trenches. They gave up over 50 sacks last year, a big reason why Sanders couldn't go the entire way. And against North Dakota State, the offensive line was much improved, only gave up 1 sack. Against Nebraska, I think you said 6 in the game. I know they had at least 5 allowed. So against tougher competition, they've got to get that offensive line figured out. And so far, through a very small sample size, it looks like they haven't. Their best offensive lineman is a true freshman. They're breaking in a new center. They have a lot of work to do up front. And I don't know who's in charge of the protections, if it's Shador himself or if it's the center or somebody else on the offensive line, but it's a total mess right now.
What game was more entertaining in your guys' opinion? The double overtime Okie State win, or was it the Iowa State last second winner over Iowa?
I think the way they won the game, I think it was Iowa State beating Iowa. Iowa State's my pick to win the Big 12. I love that team. I think they're incredibly undervalued. They've got a really, really underrated defensive coordinator calling plays. They have 19 starters back from a team that went 6-3 in Big 12 play. A lot of their losses were in non-conference games. To go on the road and look just completely dead in the water at halftime, couldn't do anything, says a lot about Matt Campbell's coaching ability. They made some major halftime adjustments. And the thing that Iowa State has this year that they haven't had in the past is they have legitimate big play threats. They have playmakers at the receiver positions with Jalen Noel and Higgins. And just the way that they won with a 54-yard walk-off field goal, a kicker that was a redshirt freshman, didn't attempt a field goal against North Dakota in their opener, missed a 41-yarder right before the half that could have been big for Iowa State, to come back in the fourth quarter and make not one, but two long field goals, a 46 and then the 54-yard walk-off. That's the game that really, really stole the show, in my opinion.
We're visiting with James Westling. Once again, he's co-host of the Big 12 Today on TuneIn, talking Big 12 football on this Tuesday. What defensive performance was better, in your opinion? Was it Houston holding Oklahoma to 16, or Baylor, after giving up, 17 points in the first quarter, hanging around against 11th-ranked Utah on the road?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's tough. I think that I would probably lean more towards the Baylor-Utah game. I thought both defenses were fantastic. Oklahoma, a lot of their mistakes were self-imposed. They had a lot of penalties. They had a lot of turnovers, things that you can't do against Willie Fritz coach teams, because that's his bread and butter. Wherever he goes, it's mistake-free football. Houston, they don't have the dudes, but they're not going to beat themselves. So I would lean Baylor-Utah. Again, I thought both defenses were really good. Cam Rising, the Utah quarterback, got hurt right before halftime and didn't play in the second half. That was a huge story in that game. Utah was up 23-3 when he got injured. So give Baylor credit that they kept fighting in the second half. But I thought the Utah defense was more impressive. They held Daquan Finn, Baylor quarterback, who was one of the best players in the MAC last year, the transfer quarterback from Toledo. He had one long pass, and it was a screen play. It was really the running back doing all the work. Outside of that, his line was atrocious, and a lot of that was because of Utah's defensive line. They've got two really underrated linebackers that'll both be playing on Sundays in the NFL. So I like both of those defenses a little bit better than what Houston did.
How concerned should Texas Tech fans be about the Joey McGuire era after a skin-of-your teeth win over Abilene Christian in week 1 and then losing at Washington State?
Very, very concerned. It's going to be a long year in Lubbock. Their fans know it, and it sucks for them that through 2 weeks, you can already kind of see the writing on the wall. They're just devastated because they felt like this could be a major bounce-back year after going 7-6, which you have to remember, they were preseason picked, I think, 4th in the Big 12 last year, so that was a disappointing record for them. And their defense is really young. They didn't bring in a lot of transfers. They're building from within through high school kids. So they're young defensively. Week 1 against Abilene Christian, their quarterback throws for over 500 yards against Tech's defense. So they got beat through the air. And then Washington State did it on the ground. Had over 300 yards of rushing. The quarterback went for almost 200. He had a $197. And there's a lot of dual threat quarterbacks in this league. They're going to be really difficult for that Tech defense to slow down. I just think Texas Tech's kind of a mess right now, and it could be a long year for Texas Tech if their offense can't keep up. Their offense is good enough to keep them in games, but you can't win in this league without a defense. And Texas Tech has kind of reverted back to their old ways where they can score a lot of points, but they can't stop anybody.
A couple more for you here, James, before we let you go. What 2-0 team are we not talking about enough? I know you
UCF.
said UCF. Okay.
Yeah, I love that UCF team. Gus Malzahn in his fourth year has all the pieces to his puzzle. He wants a big, strong running quarterback. He has that with KJ Jefferson. They have 4 running backs. All are really, really good. They have Penny Boone, who comes in the fourth quarter. He's 240 pounds. He was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year last year, transferred in from Toledo. R.J. Harvey was a 1,500-yard rusher last year. He already has 6 rushing touchdowns. He's got some Le'Veon Bell to him where he's super patient, waits for his spots, and then he just attacks the hole, and he's bigger than Le'Veon Bell. He's 230 pounds, and he can run. They've got a really good defense, much improved, brought in a bunch of transfers from big-time programs on the defensive side of the football. And Sam Houston was coming off a 20-point win at Rice, a game in which they were a 7-point underdog, and they didn't belong on the field with UCF. 45-14 was the final over the weekend. Even though they really haven't played, they haven't played a Power 4 school yet. But I like that UCF team. On paper, they were very impressive in person. They passed the eye test. KJ Jefferson is getting better. He has really good receivers that are underrated. That's the team they were picked middle of the pack, 8th out of 16 teams. I think it's UCF. They're my dark horse that could vault into the top 5 in this conference.
Final one for you, James. Looking a little bit ahead to next week, is Arizona K-State the biggest game of next week, the non-conference conference game, or is there another one you think that stands out?
Yeah, no, I think it's Arizona K-State. You've got two top 20 teams. Arizona's got a really impressive quarterback in Noah Fafita. They've got one of the best receivers in football in Ted McMillan. He's going to be a future pro, probably a first-round pick at receiver. He's big, he's strong, great hands, can run. He's really fast. He was a top 5 recruit out of high school at his position, 5-star kid. So he'll be a huge test for the K-State secondary. And then, what does K-State look like offensively? Arizona's defense hasn't been great. They gave up 39 points to New Mexico. They were much better against Northern Arizona, but that's a much weaker opponent. So I think that's the marquee matchup. It's one of those weird conference, but actually a non-conference game because it was scheduled before the Pac-12 schools joined the league, and the Big 12 didn't want to make these schools go out and try to find opponents last minute. So they kept it on the schedule, just like Baylor-Utah was a non-conference game over the weekend. I think that's the big showdown. I love that it's on a Friday night. It's the primetime Friday night matchup in college football, and I think it'll be a great game.
Once again, James Wessling, our guest here on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. You can catch him doing play-by-play for ESPN and, of course, co-host of Big 12 Today on TuneIn. James, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I look forward to catching up throughout the season as we follow this exciting first season of Big 12 football with 18 teams.
Awesome, Ross. Thanks for having me on. Happy to do it anytime.
Great stuff there again from James Wessling talking about week 2 of the Big 12 football slate. It really is sad that K-State Arizona is a Friday night game to an extent. I wish that was a Saturday night deal, but both Kansas teams will be playing on Friday night here this weekend as KU hosts UNLV. And, of course, K-State taking on Arizona in the non-conference conference game, or the conference non-conference game, however you want to put it. It's too bad those games are being played at that time. It's just unfortunately the way it is, because that Arizona K-State game could be one of the games in the Power 5 possibly tomorrow here on the Morning Blitz. We'll get to that, of course, and tomorrow. Let's get to a timeout. We come back. Bad news out of Lawrence, Kansas. We'll tell you about that next, and also what to expect tonight on the high school volleyball slate. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on a Tuesday.
Your livelihood is important to you. You work hard to succeed in your farming operation, crop, livestock, home, vehicles, and special needs. We have you covered. Discounts are available for new business, remodeling, hail-resistive roofing, multi-policy, and many more. Optional coverage endorsements as well for machinery, ingestion, and equipment breakdown. Umbrella coverage for additional coverage on your home, farm, and auto. See the girls at the insurance agency at 1020 Main in Goodland, or call 785-899-5011.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
With T-Mobile, you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. Because nobody likes having to choose. It's like getting romance and sci-fi.
I love you. Also, I'm a robot.
Or being a dog person and a cat person.
Who wants a treat? Who's a good boy?
Or like being an extrovert and an introvert.
This is so fun! I can't wait to go home!
At T-Mobile, you don't have to choose. You can get the benefits you want and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. See how much you can save with our savings calculator at T-Mobile.com/switch. Plus, we'll pay off your locked AT&T phone up to $650, and you'll get a new 5G phone for free.
Pay off via virtual prepaid card in 15 days. Free phone up to $830 via 24 monthly bill credits with qualifying planning credit plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Contact us before canceling to continue bill credits or they stop and required finance agreement balance is due. Bill credits end if you pay off device early. See T-Mobile.com.
The Farmers State Bank of Oakley has been financing agriculture since the day we opened our doors. Hello, this is Corbin, and we are proud to be your locally owned partner in ag. We invite you to come and visit with us when you need to purchase new or used farm equipment, or need any type of agriculture or business loan. We have the knowledge, experience, and financial resources to keep you growing. The Farmers State Bank of Oakley, a tradition of community and agriculture for over 115 years. Member FDIC.
Your livelihood is important to you. You work hard to succeed in your farming operation, crop, livestock, home, vehicles, and special needs. We have you covered. Discounts are available for new business, remodeling, hail-resistive roofing, multi-policy, and many more. Optional coverage endorsements as well for machinery, ingestion, and equipment breakdown. Umbrella coverage for additional coverage on your home, farm, and auto. See the girls at the insurance agency at 1020 Main in Goodland or call 785-899-5011.
The only way to start your day.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
With Ross Volkmer in the Morning Blitz.
Thank you again to James Westling for joining the program. Once again, you can listen to their show, him and Ari Temkin, daily. 7 to 10 Central, 6 to 9 Mountain Time on TuneIn Radio. That's an app you can get on your phone or your computer, but the TuneIn app, Big 12 today. Those guys are on for 3 hours talking everything Big 12. So make sure you tune in for that. It's good stuff. They do a great job there, and they're really just getting going. That was something that I was visiting with James. You know, it kind of just came up out of nowhere. There were some rumblings that show might get going, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, you want to co-host this with Ari Temkin?" Yeah, I'll do that. Sure. So it's a new show, but it's going to be a good show. That especially if you love the Big 12, you want to make sure that you follow James and listen to him and Ari Temkin weekdays from 7 to 10 Central, 6 to 9 Mountain, talking Big 12 football on TuneIn Radio app. Okay, let's get to the news yesterday. Some trouble in Lawrence, possibly, especially regarding the soon-to-be number 1 ranked Kansas Jayhawk basketball team. But guard Shaquille Moore is going to be out up to 8 weeks after he broke his foot in a pickup basketball game here just a few days ago. And so now the Jayhawks are really going to be digging deeper into their bench because they had Marco Jackson, of course, but he suffered a big knee injury, about 100 days or so ago. And now you've got the backup Shaquille Moore out for 8 weeks. So the first few weeks and games of the season might be in question on the depth of guard play for the Jayhawks, who once again are expected to be the number 1 team in the AP Top 25. They'll open up against Howard on November 4th. He could still make it back, yes, but tell you, the depth is taking a little bit of a hit here for KU. By the way, if you don't know who Shaquille Moore is, he was a transfer in from Mississippi State. He only averaged about 8 points per game, but he's a guy that Kansas kind of went out and got after Jackson tore up his patella tendon. After that was done and they knew he was done for the year, they went to go get somebody else, and they brought him in, Shaquille Moore. So, like I said, it's not like you're losing Hunter Dickinson or DeJuan Harris or something like that, but you need depth throughout the course of the season, in particular early on. I feel like you need a little bit more depth as guys get into their roles and figure out who's who. And so that's a tough loss right there for the Jayhawks. So some trouble there in the basketball program, with lack of depth possibly being an issue, as once again Shaquille Moore is out. So now you're down Elmarco Jackson and Shaquille Moore as you get set to start the season here in 2024 for, once again, the top-ranked Jayhawks, who once again beginning their season November 4th. It's hard to believe, but that's not that far away. November 4th, they'll be opening up their season against Howard.
Three-run walk-off home run, a game-winning walk-off with a walk-off. His second walk-off hit of the season. In walk-off fashion, that baby's go.
Real quickly, last night, Royals lose to the Yankees 10-4. They led 2-0 thanks to Salvador Perez. He had a great game, 4 for 4 and a homer. They actually led 4-3 at one point in time in the sixth, but Yankees scored 7 unanswered runs in that ball game. Game 2 is tonight from the Big Apple at 6:05 Central. You can hear it all on AM 790 KXXX. And Rockies had day off yesterday. They will open up a 3-game series in Detroit against the Tigers. First pitch is set for 4:40 Mountain Time. Colorado did take 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee last time out. And finally, a little high school volleyball tonight. Goodland down in Scott City for some volleyball. Golden Plains is at Tri-Plains Brewsters Triangular with Greeley County. St. Francis has a tri with Shiloh and Weskin. Quinter and Wheatley Grinnell will be going to Logan Palco for their triangular. Hoxie Volleyball has a triangular with Oakley and Peaburg. And Rollins County, a triangular with Wallace County and Decatur Community. That's happening in Colby, is where that tri will be happening. So a little bit of high school volleyball tonight around the listening region. That will do it for our show here today. Once again, a thanks to you for tuning on in and listening. Thanks to James Westling as well. Tomorrow on a Wednesday show, we will be doing the College Football Power 5, getting you set for week number 3 of the college football season. I guess it's 4 in some cases, but week 3 for most of them in the college football season. We'll have that on for you tomorrow. Be sure to tune on in. Thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Morning Blitz.
Rocket 102.5 is